Okie dokie. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hopefully, I'm coming out live. As always, making sure there was a bit of a lag on the internet. So let's give it a second. Are you playing today? There we go. Alrighty. So excellent, excellent, excellent. So should be coming out live now. If you are watching this live, feel free to just post a comment in to let me know that you can hear me. And then we will start today's session. So if you are picking this up, just let me know before I start wittering on. So let's have a look, see if anybody can see me. Got people joining, which is good. Excellent. So, yeah, excellent. Okay, excellent, excellent, excellent. So, welcome everybody. Day 4 of the challenges in dog sports lives that I've been doing all this week. So, a little bit of a different one. I've got my good friend Kat Farrants with me as a guest, and she's going to be contributing to tonight's talk, which is focused on a very specific challenge that lots of people have and often can be a real turning point and a make or break. I know it certainly was for Kat, and it certainly has been for me. So hopefully it's going to be insightful to everybody. So the beginning of the week saw me talk about the whole week I've been talking about various things that can be challenges in dog sports. Anybody that's watching that partakes in the dog sports, you will have probably encountered some of the challenges that I've discussed this week, and they may be a current challenge that you've got and you want to move forward and overcome. So the beginning of the week, I talked about the importance of mental game and working on your self-confidence and your self-belief in order to receive your just dues and ultimately success in dog sports. It's really important that you view your mental game and your mindset and training your mind as much as you would a core skill, and often not being able to overcome your emotions, your nerves, your apprehension can hinder your performance in dog sports. That's definitely something that a lot of people have issues with. Second common challenge that people have is the ability to transfer what their dog does in training to what their dog does at home, and making sure that your training complements and supports what you're trying to achieve in the competition arena. And it's really, really critical that you understand the process it takes to transition what your dog does at home to what your dog does in competition. And if your dog is struggling with performance in competition, why that could be. I went through certain questions to ask yourself, 10 questions to ask yourself, which could clarify or help you identify what are the causes of the core causes of your dog underperforming or not performing at all or performing differently in competition. I then talked about perfection paralysis and overestimated assumptions, the two common things that can happen where you either in the pursuit of perfection, which ultimately stops you from moving forward, or you overestimate your dog's understanding and then ultimately expose a gap in their knowledge. So the first 3 days are available on YouTube. So feel free to check those out if you haven't had opportunity. All this week, I'm reopening the Obedience Fanatics and Heel Work courses, and I've actually moved it to a new network, a new platform, because I felt that it was easier for people to navigate. It's got a lot more options, which will make it a much more user-friendly experience. And there's loads of new content which is on that course. So if you're interested in checking out either of those, I'll share the links in the comments after this live. So I have my really good friend, student, and what would be the third thing that you are? Pain in my backside. But yeah, my good friend and colleague, Kat Farrants, who is contributing to tonight's conversation of one of the common challenges in dog sports. And I specifically reached out to Kat to have this conversation. And it's been a challenging week for Kat because of the core cause of this conversation, which I'll come on to shortly. So the core challenge that people have in dog sports is overcoming challenges and dealing with adversity. And everyone that partakes in dog sports is going to hit a crossroad or a challenge, or they're going to be asked a question of themselves, which really can test themselves, test the relationship, test whether they even want to partake in sports. And it's often quite a pivotal moment for people with their dogs. And I specifically reached out to Kat to have this conversation because it was something that was a real turning point for her and her, her super special Shanti, who passed earlier this week. So I'm very grateful for Kat to just talk about her so openly, and hopefully this will bring back fond memories and really lean into that about the journey with Shanti specifically. And there was a pivotal moment with that particular dog, which really spoke to Kat's relationship with the dog, her testimony to her commitment to training using reinforcement, and it really was quite a turning point. So first off, welcome, Kat. Hope you're well. How are you keeping?
Yeah, very well. I'm in a field in Yorkshire, which is
Excellent.
where every good dog trainer should be.
Absolutely,
In a
absolutely. And
field somewhere.
you're obviously just finished the training session, which is great to see you back in the saddle,
Yes.
so to speak.
Yes.
And did it go well?
Yeah. I'm delighted. We are solving conundrums as ever. That's what dog training is all about. So,
Absolutely.
why is the dog doing what it's doing? And we're solving it and finding pathways forward. This is for little Gracie's IGP.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like, I mean, where everyone here will know when they suffer a bereavement with a best friend's dog, it's just flipping horrible. So there's nothing like just training and being in the moment again to kind of just shake you up and get you back. So yeah, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really, really important thing to mention, that, for a lot of people, dog sports is more than just a frilly rosette and a certificate. It's actually an extension of their relationship with their dog. It's escapism for a lot of people. It's a sense of, for me, it's a sense of peace. Actually, it brings me a lot of, sanity for training my dogs. It's my thing that I love to do the most. And I think that's something that can often be overlooked with dog sports, and what a deep a process and relationship it can form with your dog. So I think that definitely speaks to the testament of the relationships that you have with yours. So obviously, Kat is embarking on a uncharted water, shall we say, with her Australian Shepherd, Gracie, in that she's embarking on a new sport, IGP. So Gracie this year made history by being the first Australian Shepherd female in the country. I wouldn't be so brazen to say the world, but definitely the country, to qualify IGP3, which is the top level
Yeah,
in that.
not just female, Australian Shepherd.
Yeah,
Great dog.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, in this country. And she is also an obedience champion, so a dog that's been successful in 2 sports. So really, really a massive testament to Kat, her training and her dedication, and also her coach, I will say. But really, what I wanted to talk to Kat about was her Gracie's mum, Shanti, who was very much Kat's heart dog, and how there was a definite crossroads in their journey. So let's take it back a little bit. So if you're okay to talk about Shanti, bless her.
Yeah, definitely.
So who was Shanti?
Oh yeah.
I think the
So
background.
all right. So Shanti was basically like, she was always an incredibly special dog. So I bred her, and like right from literally the second she was born, I knew that she was mine, and we had an incredible bond right from the very, very beginning. And I basically, I was interested in dog training. I'd always done bits and bobs, but it wasn't something I was massively enamored by. I took her along to a local dog club where I lived, and they happened to do rally. Fabulous sport, nothing wrong with it. But it's probably just that particular club. But basically, by lesson 2 or 3, this is me with a sort of 6-month-old puppy. She had kind of done all the exercises. It was clear that I was a keen student. Like, I was working harder than all the other people. I was actually doing the homework. And Shanti was just really flipping good. And I sort of looking at the instructor's dog and thinking, well, Shanti's better than that, and she's 6 months old. So I remember calling up Kamal, because we'd trained together briefly with her mother, and I was like, okay, I need a competitive obedience trainer who's local to me, and that got me on the obedience. I started training with Di Martin, and that was absolutely amazing, because just that Shanti was such a good learner, just such an honest dog. Because I was just learning. I was learning about clicker training, brand
Yeah.
new. But she was just so honest that when I taught her something, she was like, "Oh, I think you said that wrong, but I think you meant this. So she sort of tided me over, and I
Yeah.
went along to our very first show, which was a BCOS show, which is the show that Kamal set up. And she won her class, and that was a pre-beginners. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And it kind of went from there. But it was Shanti that totally took me through, and the whole reason of me doing obedience was because Shanti wanted to, because she was a clever dog. She wanted to live an
Yeah.
enriched life. What
Mhm.
I really enjoyed about having a dog who I did stuff like that with, because I'd never really done that stuff in depth,
Mhm.
is I just loved the level of communication that I had with that dog. It was like, it was absolutely like telepathy. So that was
Mhm.
the reason for me doing it. It was like, if Shanti wanted to do it, I was having a great time, and I found my relationship was really enhanced
Mhm.
by doing it. And it was, for me, all about the connection, all about the relationship. It was
Yeah.
never about anything else.
Yeah.
Although I think I did have the goal of like getting to pre-beginners at Crufts or something.
Yeah. And and everything in the first certainly part of your career just went swimming well. I mean, she more or less, she
Oh,
won everything
she
that she.
Oh, she
Um,
won everything. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So well, she won the first pre-beginner she was in, then she won the first beginners, then the
mhm.
second, she won the second beginners, and then, first novice she was placed in. But it has to be said that under Dies, and I think I went back to you at this stage as well, under your tutelage, we did do training rounds.
Yeah.
So we only competed when we were ready to win the class above.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, but yeah, we basically just won through the classes. And I remember in 2016, we won 3 novices, 3 A's, 2 B's. And the
Right.
first time I set myself up, I was first time ever I was in B. I'd only ever done it, you know how we all do it. We break down exercises. We
Yeah.
don't really string things together.
Mhm.
Um, and I remember asking Lou, lovely Lou Holmes,
Mhm.
your student as well, shit, how do I set a dog up for a send away? And she
Uh-huh.
was like, Kat, I can't believe you're going to bloody work your first B and you don't even know how to do that. And we won it. So it just shows it's like that dog really tided me through because I sure didn't know what I was doing.
Bless her. She was an absolutely phenomenal little dog, and as you say,
Great dog.
you got her to obviously that level, and then she quickly qualified for ticket, and
Yeah,
with relatively soon in her competitive
yeah,
career at that level, she
yeah,
won a ticket and she
yeah,
went to Crufts,
yeah. She was
all
just 4 when she
swimmingly
won a
down.
ticket. It was amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. All went swimmingly well, as often is the case. When often if you don't know much by that point, obviously you were training regularly at the Bracknell
yeah,
group,
yeah,
and it
yeah.
was it was phenomenal to everything that you put in front of her. She thrived on, and it just blossomed. So then she got a ticket and she qualified for ticket and she went to Crufts and I think she had a merry old time at Crufts, didn't she?
She
Was it?
she did phenomenally. You know what? She was the only dog I do believe that particular Crufts to do the whole test.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, she was absolutely brilliant. She had a lovely time, and we got placed. So she was at the time the highest placed Aussie bitch ever at Crufts in
yeah.
the championships, and it was just like magic.
Mhm.
Everything was like magic, and everyone was coming up to me like, "Oh my God, she's got champion written on her forehead.
Yeah.
You're definitely going to make her by a champion by May." It was, of course, March. It was Crufts, and I was like, "Yeah, brilliant. I'm going to go along to my first few shows. I'm going to make her a champion. Easy peasy."
Easy
And
peasy.
then
Yeah. And that's exactly, I think, so bearing in mind, and it was really important to hear Kat talk about the reason why she embarked on dog sports. It was about an extension of her relationship with the dog. It was about enhancing the life that they had together, having a deeper connection. So all was well, went to Crafts, dog was brilliant, had a brilliant time. Did she get placed? She got placed, that's right.
yeah,
She
yeah,
called,
yeah, yeah, yeah. She was the
got
only
placed.
Aussie bitch at the time ever to have been placed. It was brilliant.
Absolutely. So you got placed, everything's right. Right, okay, well that was easy. Let's tick that box and now we'll get her made a champion and then we'll just go off into the blue yonder. And the universe went, no, 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 no. That's not how it works. And essentially everything started to unravel, didn't it? Everything
It
started to
was and I went from like Hallison days of couldn't like go into a class without winning it to I literally couldn't get placed that year in ticket.
yeah.
And I was, and as you know, Kamal, by the end of the year I was scrabbling around for fifths and sixths, and it was just like awful. It was
Yeah.
awful. It was such a bad year. And basically, Shanti and my relationship disintegrated. I became just obsessed about winning, and I became obsessed about winning these tickets and making her into a champion. And I was absolutely unable to see why I couldn't, because the writing was on the wall. I'd never not won. I was a combination of like outraged and I just had these expectations. It was all about the expectations, and I just couldn't get placed that year. It was awful. It was a terrible, terrible year.
Yeah.
And
And look,
then
having said that, Kat, looking back, it was a year of learning, wasn't it? Really, if you look back now, harsh lessons to learn, but it was almost like you had a meteoric rise to quite a heady level, and then whether now you're much more obviously, and doing what your next, we'll talk about later on about your next venture, how you've learned. It's those experiences that have molded you to where you are now. If you hadn't had that struggle, if you hadn't had those challenges, you wouldn't be in the position that you are now to be able to potentially help others. So why do you think it went wrong then? Was it your ambition?
It was what it was is exactly. It was I basically lost my way, and I just, first of all, it was assumptions. I assumed that Shanti would do the test and that I would basically win it. I had expectations. I absolutely expected that to happen. I also I think I lost my way, as in I forgot my relationship with Shanti, and it became about the prizes. And I did. And by the end of the year, sort of Shanti and I were kind of looking at each other like, oh God, who are you anyway? And you just were not enjoying it. We were in a really, really bad space together. And that was and then the best thing that happened to me, I was very lucky, because then the COVID years struck. So then I had 2 years off. And in those times, I don't know if you want to tell the story, or if should I tell it from my point of view, or you?
Yeah, go on, then you tell it from your point of view, and then I'll pitch in.
We'll see if it marries up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So in the COVID years, it was actually very good, because I decided to go back to basics with her, and I was teaching her concept of noise, because she'd always struggled with noise. That was something I'd done. So that was a very good thing training wise. So that was cool. But then we came out of the COVID years. I'd done all this kind of fun stuff with noise and messed around with bitey stuff. And I was on a Kamal camp with you. It was in May or something. So right at the beginning of the season. And Shanti just basically decided to down tools at the camp. She was just saying, F you, I'm off to do my own thing. As anybody who has an Australian Shepherd, or in fact, many other dogs will know. They'll know that feeling. And we were basically at this crossroads where it was like, okay, the crossroads is either we make the dog do the thing, and we march up and down the field and we make her, or we kind of retire, or we retire her. That was actually the sort of plan on the table. It was like, or we retire her.
Oh, well, there was a third option, wasn't there?
Or plan C, as I remember it, I came back the following day and I was like, let's do plan C. And plan C was, right, let's go back to our happy place. Let's go back to Shanti Cat Happy Land, which is where we came from. Let's just have a great time dog training. Let's kind of forget, because we'd got very scientific about the training, as in, like, we were properly doing, right, our click pointers here, we're going to train here. We'd got very cut and dry about it, which is obviously, good dog training in one way, but we'd left behind the emotion reason why we did it, which was the connection.
I'm sorry interjecting you. And the reason, so that I absolutely, that's exactly what happened. So you were somewhat of a crossroads. You were at Sophie's choice moment of, here's your options, Kat. You want to make this. You said to me you want to make this dog a champion. Okay, so here's what we can do to make that happen. We can make the dog do it, and under whatever withholding reinforcement, timeout, whatever. But that's one option. We can make this dog do this, and we can work her through it, and we can do it that way. Or you can let go of this dog's not going to be the immediate champion, because you've essentially undermined the core essence of your relationship with this dog. It isn't
Yeah.
going to happen. You live a merry life. You had at that point Gracie was you had Gracie who was obviously
Gracie was up, and she was upcoming. It was obvious
yeah.
that she was a very good dog.
Yeah.
So
So you went, oh, do you know what? Okay, I've got this super young dog. I'm gonna like Shanti can be a pet. She can pot around, etc. And I'm gonna let it go. And I put it on the table. It was a very in-depth conversation that we had. I said, you know, and I think at one point we discussed about, or you can just go along with it and you can reward her for whatever she does, good or bad or different. Take whatever she gives you on the day. And if she decides to turn it on, you'll turn it on. And if she doesn't, then you shrug your shoulders and say, okay, c'est la vie.
yeah.
And, you know, I left you to think about it. You know, it had to be your choice because I said, I can't make the decision for you because it has to be a personal choice. And I have to say, the next day a cat came back and said, I cannot do option one. I'm just not prepared to do it. That's not why I signed up to train this dog. You know, this dog is a dog that I spoon in the evening, I think was the way she put it. There is no way
Yes.
I'm making her do it. Second thing is, if you weren't ready to give up and go, okay, but what you went is, well, if she doesn't become a champion, she doesn't become a champion. I just want to get back essentially to enjoying the game.
Yes.
And if she wants to do it, great. And if she doesn't, great. That's the way it is. And if she doesn't get made a champion, then that's the way the cookie crumbles. I've got Gracie. You know what? Will be my new thing, and that will be my focus, and that'll be it. And in that moment, it was like everything just clicked, didn't it? Everything just clicked. Because it really what it did is this was a relationship that was built on genuinely adoring the other. Like Cat and Shanti got you and whatever you are, and you got her. And that was the essence. Oh, I could get quite, you know, it was such a unique, special relationship that you will probably never have again. But it was a relationship that was built genuinely on you two got each other. Like she went, oh God, I don't know what the hell she's doing with her left foot, but she clearly means this. I'll endure her. You know, she's dribbling, looking vacant, and she otherwise her option's got to be playing Sudoku. Come on, do you want to go to Crufts? And she literally did that to you, and you went and you bought into her little whimsical ways and her. No, I don't think so. Or I would like that, mummy. You know, can I have a glass of prosecco and on the veranda? And you went, yes, no problem, darling. That was what made the relationship so special. And I think what happened is you'd lost that along the way.
Yes.
And
I got serious, and I slightly bought into a lot of the stuff that happens at dog shows, which is, you know, at dog shows, you do randomly talk to people about dog training. And it's easy for that sort of stuff to just kind of become earworms in your head and to take in what people are saying. And in that, it's like, oh no, I wouldn't have that. Or, you know, it's just that the things which I'd never done, I'd started to do. And
the other thing you did in that time period was you started to label her as something that you didn't like. Oh, she's lazy. She's this. She's that. She was never any different. She was always a dog that did what she needed to do, no more than no less, because that's how she was raised to be. You know, she was a princess. She was somewhat of a prima donna, but that's who her character was, wasn't it? That's who that was. She was like that from the second that, even when I saw her a puppy, she just had that. You know, you clearly all are beneath me. She had that aura about her. We're clearly humanizing, but if you knew the dog, you would understand it. But in that, you started to look at her as just the dog. She reverted to being just the dog. The dog that went, I don't want to do this game. And because it was important to you, you were like, well, because I want to make you a champion. And it lost the core essence of like, she wasn't just the dog. You know, she was more than that. And I think that's the thing that really was the pivotal moment point. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for me, what the absolute learning is I'm probably jumping ahead, but it's just remembering and being crystal clear. Why is it I'm doing this? And if it's that thing that's always, been in your mind and has done well with you and your dog, it's like just not to lose sight of it and not to sort of be swayed by. Because I remember, I'd have people being like, oh, why are you doing this, that, and the other? Because I used to do you remember I did stupid jollies in the ring and like, oh, come here, darling. They're like, they were like, oh, you'd never see, big name
Yeah,
person doing that in the ring. Why are you doing that? And I was like, okay, I'll stop doing that. I'll do the normal thing, the
official thing.
serious
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, and actually, again, when I started, when we came back to shows in 2022, and I started to do my silly things and absolutely humoured her, and I was like, "Ooh, like here we are in ticket. She's won a ticket." And then I'm like, "Ooh, it's a retrieve. Do you want this, darling?" I mean, you'd never see, the big names or whatever do that. They just wouldn't. They're very serious with their dogs. But there I was doing that, and I was saying happy clappy in between. And you know what? We very quickly that year we
yeah.
won not only 2 more, but we won 3 tickets.
Yeah.
Just because that dog decided to do it. She's just like, yeah, all right
Fun
then, let's
again.
do it.
Yeah. And the thing to say, which is really the core message, is at that point, or everybody, and I'll share you with my experience with Punch. Everybody has adversity in sports. It
Yes.
doesn't matter whether it's dog sports, whether it's athletics, whether it's martial arts, whether it's football. Everybody has adversity in sports, and what those moments do is they ask a question of who are you in this moment. That's my take on it. And what the question you were being asked was, well, who are you to this dog? Your choices are you can absolutely drag this dog around the field, and you probably would have got her to do it loosely. And she might have been, I don't know if she would have specifically, but let's just say, let's play devil's advocate. She might have stumbled across, a ticket or two and made a champion. But how would that have made you feel of having compromised your relationship and your who you are as a trainer, who you are as a dog owner? And for me, that was the real message, and which you've obviously now carried forward.
Yes.
To stay true to who you are with your dog, and I think that's such a pivotal thing. And
Yes.
to when you have adversity, to always go back to your core foundations.
Yeah.
With that experience, what would you say was the takeaway, the biggest takeaway you had from that?
And this is stupid. It's obviously what everyone says, but enjoy each step of the journey and don't get hung up on the goals. And I know that we all get hung up on the goals because kind of that's why we're competing instead of just sitting in a field with our dogs doing the things.
Yeah.
But that thing of the goal was absolutely the thing that got in the way.
Yeah.
So, definitely trying to and doing whatever mind things you can do to let go of those expectations, to let go of the goals, and to really walk your own path. The other thing is to really to be yourself, because your dog knows who you are in private, in however you train. And if you sort of be like, right, I'm now going to become like Mary Ray because Mary wins all the tickets, the dog's just going to look at you and like, you're a fraud. This isn't right. This isn't you.
And
So I think,
just to qualify on that point,
yes,
it's no different to Mary trying to be Cat or Kamal trying to be Cat. You've got to be your own person, isn't it?
Yes,
You've got whatever that is, whatever good, bad, or indifferent, be yourself. And I think that's a really, really, really important message. And sort of just further to overcoming adversity. I shared with people on social media that I had a boxer called Punch. Some of you may have seen pictures of him on social media, and I had massive goals for that dog. I got him with the intention of doing a sport which Kat's now doing with her dog called IGP. And he was from his father was a world champion, and his breeders intended them to be sports bred boxers, which is quite unusual in the breed. So I got him with that express intention, and I started his training as you would with any dog, with that goal in mind. And what happened with him was he actually got an injury, which essentially got he was lame. He was on 3 legs, but the core cause or the core issue didn't get ultimately diagnosed for about 2.5 years, and then rehabbed, etc. So it happened when he was about 2.5. It then took another 2.5 years of various, going here, trying different things, trying different treatments, etc., etc., to ultimately the core issue was identified. And then it was a case of operating on the dog and then another 12 months of rehab. So the dog was now 6 years old. And I had a dog that was 6 years old. And I had these huge ambitions of thinking, right, I could possibly do it if I really, put the work in. So I then embarked on starting the process again. Now, just a bit of context, his father was a world champion. His litter mate was a world champion by that point. And there's me having a dog that couldn't even compete at this point. So, and there is the perception could be, oh, it's Kamal Fernandez. He's got this dog. I have to say, as a person, I'm not like that. I'm very much like I run my own race. However, even from my own point of view, I'd put a lot of work into him. The process to identify the injury was incredibly emotional because the dog at one point was so lame that I questioned even whether it was ethical to keep him. He was in such a level of discomfort. There was periods of rest, then you'd get him right, he'd go lame, and so forth and so forth. So this went on for, as I said, 2.5 years, and then eventually he was operated on. So the dog was back in work, and I had this dizzy aspirations to go, do you know what, I might be able to do it. I might be able to get this dog qualified in IGP. So I went off to, right? I went off to, that's right, a competition. So I trained the dog. I got him to the point where I felt, right, okay, we're ready to do a BH with him. And we went off to do this BH. And what had happened was the week prior to that, I had run my summer camp at a location the dog frequented all the time, which in hindsight was somewhat of a misjudgment on my part. So we were on my camp. I was training him each evening at a location the dog considered a second home for him. So as a dog that is guarding breed, that was a huge misstep on my part because he needed to be taken to lots of different environments and generalized constantly. So that week prior, and he was the type of dog that was very literal, that was one part of the puzzle that I made a misstep on. Second thing was that the day before I was meant to, so the course finished on the Friday. I was meant to go to the competition on Saturday. I was exercising my dogs at the end of the day, and it was raining, which wasn't, a big drama. But when he came back from the walk, I thought, oh, he doesn't look quite sound. And obviously, when you've got a dog with an injury, you're really paranoid about these things. So I just dusted it off, thinking, oh, maybe it's a bit of pre-competition nerves. He doesn't look 150%, but I could be, and it was a minimal little thing. Anyway, I went to the competition the next day, and it was an absolute disaster. So there I was, this 6-year-old dog. I'd, been on this quest to try and get him fit and sound. Now was my big moment to sort of really, get your just dues, and it was an absolute disaster. The dog went out. I was literally patting my leg to try and get him to stay with me. He broke the downstay, which was not an issue. He started barking at me, all real random stuff. So obviously, and it's, if anybody knows anything about IGP, BH is a very, very basic starting point, and he failed it, right? So at the time, obviously, I was like, oh my God, this dog's behaving like really out of character. So first thing is, once I've licked my wounds and gone, oh, that's disappointing, etc., etc. The next day, a friend of mine, John Johnson, who's a very good friend, who's competed, with Rottweilers at national level and international level numerous times, he messages me and says, oh, obviously I told him that he was in disbelief when I said I'd failed it. He said, I can't believe it. He thought I was joking. I went, no, it was an absolute disaster. Dog was awful, blah, de, blah, de, blah. I said the dog was awful. And in hindsight, I know that wasn't the case. He asked me the question. He said, how do you feel the next day? I said, determined. And that was the word I sent him. Because now I was in a position, I changed my mindset from taking a knock and going, hang on a second, right, let me look at this logically. First thing I did was got into my physio, and she went, yes, the dog is absolutely still, there's a little tiny niggly thing. 6 weeks rehab, gone back on that rehab mill, got the dog back to fitness, etc., etc. Right, then once I had him sound, then I started to prep him more appropriately. I started to take him to random locations, generalize the behavior, took him to the venue that he'd eventually be competing at a couple of times, trained there, took him to different locations, etc., etc. Put all my groundwork in. And then I competed and I completed the BH. And I still say to this day, out of all the things that I've done with dogs, and that is one of my most greatest achievements. It was like I won the world championships to get that qualification, that silly little qualification with that dog. And it was nothing to do with the certificate. It was all the adversity that we'd overcome, getting the dog fit and healthy, getting him sound, getting him through that part over that initial, attempt at the BH, then doing this, then trying it again, and then hoping and right, that's it. Because if you only have X amount of times attempts at passing it, and I have a feeling it's only 2 attempts, so that was like a last chance saloon. So all that stuff, and it all came right. And I did actually, it was the child that Kat actually did her IGP. No, you did your BH there. I actually thought, right, okay, now I've got momentum. I'm going to try and do an IGP1. I organized the trial, got the helper, did the judge. The week before, it might have been not even the week, the week before, a couple of days before he was due to compete, he went lame. And I took that as, okay, I'm going to bow out gracefully and, concede in this moment. So in that moment, you can look at it as, oh, I failed, I haven't achieved my goals, etc. For me, it was the most rewarding experience to achieve that BH with any dog that I ever had. But further to that, it really did. And then, the other entity to it was he was retired officially from training. And up until that point, I had to be really, really pedantic about his exercise, where I walked him, etc., monitor him watch him like a hawk. And as it happened, I went after I retired and went, you know what? I'm going to let you live a bit of a life, because I can't, putting you in cotton wool, let you be a dog, let you live, etc. And he never went lame after than that, but ironically enough, which is the way it goes. But what then happened is he, unfortunately passed away sitting in his favorite place in my garden, where I came back from dropping Neve off at school, and he clearly had a heart attack, and boom, that was gone. And at the time, a bit like, Shanti, it was devastating, but it was sort of an irony to the way in which it happened, really, and it taught me more about overcoming challenges and being persistent and not quitting and looking for alternative solutions, thinking outside the box, all of that stuff. But more importantly, when I look back, it was really about the lesson learned about overcoming challenges, because the amount of setbacks that we had with him specifically, even the pursuit of trying to figure out what was wrong with him, why he was lame. I went to chiropractors, osteos, physios, referrals, the whole shebang, and yet we could get him sound, and he'd go lame again. And it was a real journey of persistence, of a test of emotion. It was a test of commitment. And I still say that, as I said, that BH qualification was one of the most things that I've been proud of in my career. And sports will absolutely present challenges. It might be physical challenges with your dog. It might be training challenges, as with Kat's dog, Shanti. It might be challenges within your life at the time, because that can often happen. Change of circumstances, pressures within your home, all those things. And often the sport that we partake in can amplify or can be like looking at a problem, say a dog not sitting straight. It then becomes more important to you because of all the other stuff. And knowing how to handle that and knowing how to deal with that is such an integral part of dog sports. So Kat, on your take on things, what would you say is the advice people can use, or would you give to people that have adversity in dog sports? What can they do to overcome those things?
I mean, my advice again is to look inside and to really find out what it is that you're wanting from the situation, because I know that you're a lot saying, it's resilience, and sometimes there is resilience, but sometimes there's a there's a letting go.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the right thing to do, is to let go and to say, you know what, even if you just park it for a few months, 6 months, do something that puts you back into your happy frame of mind.
Yeah.
That can be something that's really helpful, because then when you're back in the right headspace,
Yeah.
then you can look at it sort of from another point of view, and then your dog might have less pressure, you'll feel less pressure, and you'll get that better sense of connection, and then you can go off and achieve or not, or just decide that you want to have nice walks with your dog. But I do think that the answer is always to be what is it that I really want? And
Yeah.
some people, the answer is always a rosette. I always want a rosette.
Yeah.
And then I suppose my question would be, let's look deep down a bit further than that. And what is that rosette to
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
Like, when that dog is gone, like when I think of Shanti now, do I think of four CCs? No,
No, no.
no.
You think of her cuddling on the sofa or her whimsical, and that's the thing
Yeah.
that I think is really critically important to remember. That for me, I always say I'm a relationship-based dog trainer. My relationship with my dog is at the forefront of my mind, and certainly with Punch and other dogs I've had, that's always been the test. It's more about how can I help this dog? I can't get him fit. I can't get him well. Never mind all the other stuff. And the other stuff is more for my ego. You know,
Yes.
rosettes and certificates are entirely for my ego. But
Yes.
and obviously some dogs have an aptitude or desire to train and to work, and they absolutely need a vocation. But to pursue a goal like a competitive dog sport, it really is about us and it's our aspirations. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when that's tested, when you have adversity, it's always important to go back to the core essence of why. Why are you doing it? You embarked on this journey with this dog because you wanted to improve your relationship. You wanted a deeper connection. You wanted a clearer communication. You wanted to have a social entity to it. You know, you wanted to be among people that had a common philosophy, a common belief. All those things, for me, is why we should be training dogs for dog sports. And when you have adversity, when you have a problem in dog sports, when you have challenges, always go back to that. And because that will be where if you've gone a little bit left, if you come back to that point, you'll find a new direction that will ultimately take you where you need to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And, even like thinking now with Gracie, what's my goal with her? What am I doing with her? Well, ultimately, what I've discovered is it actually doesn't matter what sport I do. It's so
No,
long as it's me and her versus the world.
yeah, yeah,
And she's a very different dog to Shanti. She's a very spicy dog, quite
mm,
feisty. She
mm,
likes a challenge. And I'm
yeah,
like, well, so long as I'm giving her adventures,
yeah,
challenges, I'm presenting new conundrums for her to
yeah.
solve, I'll know that the day that she passes, she'll have had a fulfilling life and I'll have enjoyed
The
watching
present.
her doing
Mm,
her challenges and
mm,
having a great time and been part of her team.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I think that's it as well. It's like, what's your dog? What's your goal?
mm,
What are you about with that dog?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such an important thing when you, especially when you have challenges and when you have
Mm,
adversity, finding a way forward is always based on that question: why are you doing it? What's your purpose for doing that? And when you look back, what will you remember? Will you remember the fact that you got a frilly rosette or an
mm,
accolade or a certificate? Or will you remember, wow, that dog overcame that? Or wow, I can remember teaching that and that dog having that aha moment? Or we really struggled to achieve that and then we got it. That's really what we should be holding on
mm,
to keep us moving forward. So, in terms of your own journey into dog sports,
mm,
you've had a now somewhat of a full circle moment,
yeah,
and because of the lessons that Shanti's given you and Grace has given you,
mm,
you are now embarking on a new journey. So tell us a little bit about that,
yeah.
Kat.
Yeah, so it's a great journey, and again, I think that this is the journey that's being very soppy that Shanti has gifted me,
Mhm,
and almost her passing at the time I'm starting this feels quite important.
mhm,
So I've been doing yoga for 30 years.
mhm,
I've my business is in yoga for the last 11 years. I've run online yoga websites. So for me, yoga is part of my life. It's just part of what I do, and it's yoga is making shapes, but it's also breathing, it's mindfulness, it's presence, and it's a philosophy. It's a way of looking at life. So for me, a really great thing has happened in that I'm combining my knowledge and love of this present moment practice with my absolute love of being with dogs, connecting with dogs, and competing with dogs. So I've now started a course which I can now report has sold out. I've sold out my
excellent,
course.
excellent. Oh,
So
oh,
it's the first time I'm running it. It's called Mental Mastery for Dog Sports, and it's combining yoga with dog sports, not in as much as making shapes, just in as much as the what the yoga philosophy has to teach us, and the yoga techniques, as in breath work and mindfulness practices, can teach us about deepening our connection with our dogs, deepening our partnership, and really enjoying our moments of competition. Because I think I started off thinking it was only about nerves, but I think nerves are actually just one element of how it feels when it feels that we're not really enjoying that moment before we go in the ring or competing. So it's kind of, how do we get back to really just enjoying that time in the ring and enjoying our time with the dog, and getting a deeper connection. So it's a really cool journey. It's mental mastery for dog sports is how I've kind of is what the course is. And I've set myself up as dog sport performance coach, so I can help folks out with deepening connection to themselves, because I truly believe that our connection to ourselves is really where the extension of our connection to our dogs comes from. So yeah, thank you for letting me talk about that. I'm excited about it.
Well, it's really exciting because as I said, the premise of tonight's conversation is really about overcoming adversity and showing that and talking about adversity is normal. Adversity in life is normal. Adversity in dog sports is absolutely normal. Overcoming challenges. They might be training challenges. They might be competitive challenges. They might be personal challenges, which then are amplified or magnified by dog sports or an issue within dog sports. Or they might even be a reflection of what's going on internally within you. Is all of that stuff happens with dog sports. If you think, the career with the dog in dog sports could be about 10 years, if not longer, you're going to go through some life changes in that period of time. And it's really important to be aware that that's absolutely normal, and having the mindset of positivity, of being able to be how to take the things that you may feel as negative and reframing them so they empower you to be able to use them as strengths, and to also learn about yourself, which is, to me, the greatest thing about dog sports. It really does show you and teach you about yourself. I mean, I know certainly for me on a personal level, dog sports and the pursuit of goals, personal goals, it's not even about tickets or champions, just personal achievements that I aspire to are really what teach me about myself and having a purpose and something I'm working towards. But that doesn't always come easy, and that's what dog sports really will show you. So just some thoughts there about adversity in dog sports. I'm just going to see if anybody has any questions for myself or for Kat. There was a question yesterday which I'm going to pick up on, which actually Kat can probably relate to, but let's see if there's any questions before. So just give you guys a second. Let's have a look. Okay, let's see if there's any questions. If not, I've got one that's come through. Okay, so whilst we'll just give that a second, see if there's any questions. So I did have a question from yesterday, which got sent to me, and it's about your favorite topic, Kat, noise. So the question is from Vicky, in which she asked, talking about dogs being different than training, I have had a problem with Gino for the last 2 years. My trainer has been helping with him, but I cannot see what I'm doing different in the ring. As soon as we start heel work, he starts to sing. He's a lot better now than he was 2 years ago, where he was full-blown opera singer. Yep, you can relate to that one. Now he just squeaks now and then, but it's still too much. He doesn't sing in training. We can do all things in training. He's quiet. I've made use of training rings and getting strangers to call us around, but he doesn't sing. I've done lots of training rounds at show where if he sings, I put him in a down and then for a short while and carry on with heel work. He's quiet for maybe one side of the ring and then he'll sing again, only for me to repeat the down, etc. We've come to the conclusion that it isn't working. So now this next suggestion is, as soon as he starts to sing, take him out the ring and straight back to the van. I've done that once, but unfortunately I find my coccyx, so I haven't been able to do another show. I'm hoping to be at a Wirral. Do you have any ideas? I think I might be doing something when I step in the ring, but goodness knows what. I'm trying to get all my rounds recorded from now on. So yeah. So thoughts on noise, Kat, as you've been down this treacherous road?
Oh my God. Is it an Australian Shepherd?
Yeah.
Um, Yeah. So basically, like, yeah, well, as well, Kamal, it's a habit. Noise can become a habit, and doing something which is a habit in the ring becomes a habit in the ring. And of course, dog knows that you're competing. Of course they do. Of course they know it's a different environment, and the answer is to train it in the ring the same way that you're training it outside the ring. And if you can't physically get to your car, you would just take it out the ring. I did use a no reward marker for my noise to teach it. I know that the science is a bit sort of 50-50 on whether NRMs work, but it did work for me, and it was a really clear one. So the dog knew, right, this is my criteria, this is the amount of noise it's going to bring in the NRM. This is what the training is that the NRM will happen. Then we walk out of the ring and the dog goes, goes in the car or whatever. But it's always doing the amount of training rounds. So when I was teaching this concept of noise, I would teach it in different environments as well. Like I went to agility clubs. I went, I taught her to do the tunnel with noise and without noise. I did it in every different environment. I did it showing. I did every different kind of ring. So it's
Yeah.
kind of teaching it in, like you would with any other behavior, we're teaching it in 100 different ways, different permutations. Like this is what noise is, this is what isn't noise. And I'd almost not poison, as it were, the heel work in a ring in order to NRM.
Heel work,
And
absolutely, yeah.
yeah,
Definitely the same thing. Don't make it about heel work. Take it out of context. Do it on tricks, the simple behaviors, and then take those tricks into the ring. However, the other thing I'd say, and I think Kat would be in agreement on this one, is you also have to make peace with, you may not, if the noise has developed and it's established, you may never ultimately diminish it completely. Now, hindsight's a wonderful thing. If in hindsight, certainly with Shanti, if amazingly we had that opportunity again, you would have probably a zero tolerance the second it happened in hindsight. But it is what it is. The same with Gurley. In hindsight, I would have a zero tolerance from the get-go, and I would see that noise issue bubbling away. But also, I suppose the truth is compromise and go, you know what? Let's see if I can reduce the noise as opposed to eradicate it completely. And I would focus on making other things stronger. And as I said, reducing the noise sufficiently where it becomes, some judges will mark it, some judges won't. And reaching a point of acceptance of going, you know what? Hindsight's a wonderful thing. I could have done it differently. I could, obviously, I'm not saying to not persevere with the no reward marker process, but that's quite a long-winded one. But also letting it go, because to be fair, on her Shanti, even at the end of her career, she could every now and again make a little noise.
Oh God, yeah, and I think that's a really, really good point, because to be honest, to teach noise thoroughly, like it was an entire 2-year lockdown project in the most thorough, ridiculous way that you can imagine. And it's a hell of a thing, and not many people would want to go down that route. And to be honest as well, I think that there is a mental game around noise, especially in the obedience rings, because people say, "Oh, it's noisy," and that can really become an earworm for you if you're not careful. Because people will be like, "Oh, you'll never succeed if your dog makes a noise," and you're thinking, "Well, your dog's lagging, can't do a left turn to." So nobody is coming up to you and saying, "Oh, with a left turn like that, you'll never do well." There's something about noise that gets people really
it's quite triggering,
animated.
isn't it?
Yeah. And I think part of it is just say, "Okay, mark me." In the same way that you'd mark lagging, a bad left turn, anything else, it's fine. And some judges will mark it a quarter. Some judges will mark you 11. You just take it on the chin.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's something that I would strongly urge anybody, that and depends on the dog and the age, because you've got to also look at it, because the other thing I'd say, definitely this happened with Shanti, it becomes such a thing, it actually contributed to the lack of joy. It almost like she couldn't do right for wrong.
Yes, absolutely. And
I think as well, looking back, that was another thing that made her go, do you know what? You're just picking on me all the time. This isn't what our relationship is about. You're just constantly nagging me about the noise. And your relationship was very vocal. She was that your interactions were vocal with her. So then you all suddenly went, oh no, I know we've talked a lot for the last X amount of years. Could you now be stony silence? So yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and as Vicky actually is, I'm so pleased I've signed up for Kat's course. That's brilliant. So Vicky Curtis is the person that asked about the noise. So you're going to get a lot of support from Kat on that one.
Oh, that's so cool, Vicky. I'm so pleased. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun, and we will take away any earworms about it.
Yeah, and making peace with it. Yeah. So hopefully, I don't think there's any other questions anybody has from tonight's conversation about overcoming adversity in dog sports, challenges within dog sports, and how to reframe them, use them for your to give you power and strength, and also to look at what the actual challenge is. Is it actually an opportunity to grow as a person, improve your relationship with your dog, or essentially get back to what your core relationship with your dog is? Whatever it is for you, ensure that you take it as a lesson to be learned, is my message. Kat, any final thoughts or words that you want to add before we wrap things up?
No, always good to chat. Really appreciate you asking me. It's lovely. Thank you for your questions, Vicky, and really looking forward to working with you. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you. Obviously, I just want to say, thank you for given the week that you had, for coming on and being so vulnerable and talking about Shanti. I know that it's still very raw, but I know that her journey was not in vain, and from her journey so many others will glean, as Vicky and many others, and I know that it is going to be because of her, and it will be as a testament to her. So we'll leave it there. But thank you very much, Kat, for your time. Everybody that's watching, I hope you've enjoyed it. Feel free to share this and let people know and about the lives that have been going on this week. As I said, if you want to join Obedience Fanatics, where Kat's a member of, or the Heal Work courses, and become part of the VIP group, I'll share the links on the chat. Additionally, I'll also share Kat's information so you can reach out to her if you want help about mental management for dog sports. So super excited about that. I wish you all the best, whatever you're doing this evening. Take care, enjoy your dogs, and don't forget, it's all about the journey and not the destination. Take care, everybody.